when I first read this week's reading, the first thing that came to my mind was about our temple, our temple over there. I was just reminded that how I felt when this renovation work started back in December. It was right around New Year's Eve, and I remember feeling very strongly that how can this room, the drawing room, can be our temple? And Master's birthday, 5th of January, was right around the corner. And I was really feeling strongly that no, we need to celebrate Master's birthday in temple, not in this small room. However, we celebrated his birthday here, and I realized that, and it was beautiful, and I realized that Master wouldn't have cared where we celebrate. He cared whether we had love for God and whether we are sincerely making our own effort to, come closer to Him. And of course, now you feel that, this is our temple, isn't it? Because we've meditated, we've had satsang, we had kirtan, and we made this place as our temple. The renovation is, however, it's coming to an end, very close, and it's nice to go back in a bigger room in our official temple. But I want to remember, or I want us all to remember, that it is not about physical location or physical room. Jesus Christ said, destroy this temple and in 3 days I will raise it up. He was talking about his body as temple. He was not talking about this huge stone building. And same goes with us. Our temple is this body, this heart, and our consciousness. And we all have more or less our daily inner communion with God, and we bring that experience, that communion here or there in the room, and that's how we draw God's grace and make a place holy and uplifting. Jesus also said, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. So that's what we are doing, and that's what we are going to do wherever we go. Another episode also came to my mind with this topic. Some time ago, maybe a few months ago, I was talking with my friend, and he said, I looked at your Facebook profile, and now I can tell you what kind of person you are. I got curious what he has to say. So I listened, and he gave his interpretation, analysis of who I am. And I could see his point in that if someone don't know me, someone who doesn't know me, read those sentences, maybe that's what people think. But that was a friend. He has met me many times. We've spoken together, and yet, do you choose to follow a few lines of text, to decide who I am, rather than what you've heard, what you've seen firsthand? But then, later it came to me that maybe this is what we do to God. When we read scriptures or books, we feel that, oh, yeah, we've got it. We've got your message. But did we really get his message? Some of us have been doing a weekly book study on Patanjali. We read Swamiji's Demystifying Patanjali, the book. This Patanjali, these sutras are very succinct and very short, and I wouldn't say simple, but sometimes we read and then, yeah, I think this one is straightforward. And then we move on. Someone shares, oh, by the way, this happened in my life last week, or I had this feeling. And soon we realize that this maybe is what Patanjali meant in that sentence. Or, when we are able to connect our personal life, personal situation to those sentences in the scriptures, we are able to really understand what it means. And that meaning becomes the truth for each one of us, and it will never leave us. It, in a way, changes us from inside. So in that sense, God is impersonal, but He's also very personal. Sister Janamata, who was Master's foremost advanced woman disciple, she said, I know you, the Master, have come for the word, but I want to think that you came for me, just for me. It's like that. He has that personal message for each of us. And that personal message, no one can receive it on behalf of us. We have to be the one to receive. How do we do that? And meditation is the key. Right now, I think many of us are going through lots of activities, lots of work, maybe with kids or family, also vacation, traveling here and there, meeting different people, lots and lots of activities. Even at this ashram, we have lots of sewa activities going on. And in these times, often our ego gets excited and say, oh, I have to do it. I have to make it happen. I will do it. You get tensed, you become nervous, and the harder you work, the more you struggle. We started all those activities thinking that this will make us happy and bring joy, and then you find, at least I found this week, in fact, I found myself going through the day without joy. God is joy, and if we don't have joy in ourselves, we are not in His wavelength. We are not able to receive His message. That's why we need to retreat into silence, into meditation. In meditation, we focus on our breath, we focus on our energy, we focus on the present moment. And that time, what we are doing is we are letting go of past regrets or attachments. We're letting go of future desires or anxieties. We are letting go of all the preferences or likes and dislikes, oh, this has to be that way, that has to be that way. All these we just set aside, just like we, come home and wash ourselves and remove the dust that we've accumulated, or we take off overcoat of our personality, so to speak. And when we relax in meditation, free from those attachments and preferences, then we come into peace, into joy, and we are able to connect with God. God, a guru, can finally come into us, flow through us, and give us his message in the form of maybe intuition, in the form of super conscious solutions. And the pieces that you were trying to pull together earlier, that comes somehow automatically and harmoniously together. And in that process, again and again, we go through, and again we are reminded that ultimately God is the door. And what we are doing is we need to just release the tension so that God and Guru can come into us and act through us. So however busy we are, let us not forget to take time to meditate. Lahiri Mahashaya, in Autobiography of a Yogi, he said, solve all your problems through meditations. Attune yourself to the active inner guidance. The divine voice has the answer to every dilemma of life.
I want to build on what Chika was saying, and she was talking about taking the time every day to go into inner stillness, into silence, into meditation. And I want to talk about something that Yogananda ji and Swamiji spoke about, which is seclusion. And Krishna alludes to it in this reading. He says, sequestered he should sit, which is basically saying, remove himself from the hubbub and the, noise, and find a solitary place and, go there. And in fact, Swami Kriyananda ji and Yogananda ji very highly spoke of seclusion. And seclusion being just times, of course, we retreat into it every day when we go to meditate. But seclusion being also longer rhythms. They would encourage, in fact, that for devotees who are serious, that we really start to take times, a week or even 2 weeks every year when we don't do anything else, but we just go deep, And these are times, from my own experience, which really some of my happiest memories of this life are from these times. I've started it 10 years ago, and I've done it 3-4 times now, often taking 10-day seclusions. And like Yogananda ji said, there's a saying of his on this, which I want to first read out. And he said, always remember that seclusion is the price of greatness. In this tremendously busy life, unless you are by yourself, you can never succeed. Never, never, never. Walk in silence, go quietly, develop spiritually. We should not allow noise and sensory activities to ruin the ladder of our attention, because we are listening for the footsteps of God to come into our temple. And so seclusion, he says, is the price of greatness, which is to say, if you want to become great, there is a price to pay for it. And that he is saying is this ability to seclude, go away. And in the world we know hard work is often the price for, let's say, material success, success in the world. And he's saying seclusion is the price for spiritual success, for spiritual greatness. But really, even seclusion is hard work. If you haven't tried it, or if you've tried it a little, in the beginning, it is hard work to, get into the flow of a seclusion. And I remember many years ago, this was 10 years ago, when I was taking my seclusion for the first time. It was in Pune, where we have an ashram, a retreat outside Pune. And I decided to go for 10 days. And, funny side story before I go into the actual seclusion. And this was, I think I've shared this with some of you. This is regarding food. So it was my first time. And I thought, okay, I won't see anyone for 10 days. I can't talk. So let me take the food with me. But I only took food for 5 days. And I told a good friend of mine, I said, on the 5th day, please keep a bag of food outside my room for the next 5 days. And I had gone on a very specific diet of Yogananda Ji's, which was basically all raw food, fruit juices, vegetable juices, raw food. So anyways, it was hard. And I had told him, day 5, please do that. So I go into my seclusion and, start making those meals, grinding vegetables. And it's, it's a little hard, but it gets better every day. And then on day 5, I opened my door to the room in the ashram, which was a little remote. And beautiful landscapes, and there's monsoons, and I look out and there is no food. And no bag of food. And suddenly I was in a dilemma, because I was like, okay, this is hard, maybe he forgot. Let me, I have a little carrots left in the fridge. Maybe I'll manage. Let's wait for one more day. So day 6, I opened the door, beautiful landscapes, but no food. And every single day, till the 10th day, there was no food outside my room. And finally, the day I was about to come out, I was almost dying. No, I'm joking, I was fine. But it got pretty close. I opened my door and there's a big bag of food there. And what had happened later, my friend told me in the ashram, he was at the dining room. There were other people in the ashram. And, he's just going along his work. He had a busy routine. So day 9 or 10, they're all having their meals. And somebody asks him, so, hey, where is Gaurav? I haven't seen him for a while. And somebody said, oh no, he's taking seclusion. So, we should send him blessings and prayer. And this friend of mine was taking a bite of food and his spoon fell from his hand because he realized he had forgotten to, supply me with food. So anyway, that's just a funny side story. And I learned seclusion is the price of greatness, but starvation could also be the price of seclusion. If you don't prepare well, then that could be your last seclusion. But in any case, that was a very interesting time. And the first 3 or 4 days were very hard. I was doing it for the first time. And like Chika was saying, when we are busy with our lives, and it's like, we are always acting, we are used to motion, and suddenly telling your mind, your body, stay still. It's very hard, And the first 3 days I had a very hard time trying to even sit still, meditate. But really it started becoming easier and easier. And I tell you, by the 8th or 9th or 10th day, it was like, I was floating on a sea of calmness. And the mind had become so calm that I would have a thought. And, I would turn on a talk of Swami, and he would say those exact things by the phrase, by the letter. And there was just like a beautiful degree of clarity. So just to say, that's a little, this for you, that if you haven't tried it, do take the time, whether it's 10 days or whether it's 1 day, but do take the time to go into yourself. And you will find when you come out of these periods that your daily meditations improve drastically. Because it's like you've run a marathon, and when you come back from the marathon, the daily walk in the park becomes very easy. You're like, there is no strain there. But I want to talk about 2 things now. That why is it hard, for all of us, like Chika was saying, it's hard to go into that inner silence. It's hard to, go into, whatever our seclusion, our time for ourselves. And really two things come in the way. One is our work. We all are busy, we have things we have to do. And, there is something Anandamayi Ma said, she was a great saint. And I was reading this. Oops. And to put it in a different way, she said, the habit of countless lives is pulling you in the opposite direction and making it difficult for you to meditate. Very interesting. She said, persevere in spite of it. And by your tenacity, you will gain the strength and be molded. That is to say, you will develop the capability to do sadhana. And she goes on, she says, the obstinacy of the mind must be curbed with resoluteness. Whether the mind cooperates or not, you must be adamant in your determination to do a certain amount of practice without fail, simply because sadhana is man's real work. And this is an important line. For so long you have been accustomed to perform actions that fetter. Therefore, from sheer force of habit, you feel the urge to bind yourself again and again by activity. Which is very interesting, that it's just a habit. That it's just a habit of being active, of being, rajasic. We take very easily to motion, to movement. And she's saying just break that. And one way I've found it, because you can do what she recommends and all saints recommends, is that, make up your mind, use your willpower, make a resolution. I'm going to meditate every day, which is good. We need that. But, I've found that in this battle over the years, you can apply some tricks. And one thing that I have applied, and it really works, is to think of meditation not as, something grim that I have to do and I have to force myself into it, but to just think of it as another duty or service that has been given to me. We all have so many duties. We have family duties, and God has given us to take care of our kids and family and business. And just think of it as one more duty that the Guru has given you and says, do this for me. And I just find that, a softness comes in that very simple attitude. Rather than, I'm going to make it or break it, it's like there is a willingness. Oh, it's for the Guru. He's asked me to do this. It's a Guru Seva. And the more I remind myself, when I'm having that struggle, this is Guru Seva. I'm not doing it for myself. It's just, he'll be pleased. He'll be happy every time I sit down, whether or not anything comes back. The heart opens, and it's much easier to fight, this habit, this tendency to be restless. So that is one thing we can try. And then the second thing, often a challenge, why we are unable to go into the silence every day. I think very simply, it's just, we all are, let's say, living in family situations. And, there are very practical demands made upon our time by the family. And I again wanted to read something to you from the Autobiography of a Yogi. And this is Lahiri Mahashay. And it's pertinent that he says these words because, as we know, he was a householder yogi. He's from our path. And he is a householder yogi. He's setting an example for all of us that even in the midst of your duties, you can find God. But he says then here, always remember that you belong to no one, and no one belongs to you. Reflect that someday you will suddenly have to leave everything in this world. And so make the acquaintanceship of God now. Prepare yourself for the coming astral journey of death by daily riding in the balloon of God perception. Through delusion, you are perceiving yourself as a bundle of flesh and bones, which at best is a nest of troubles. Meditate unceasingly, that you may quickly behold yourself as the infinite essence. So I find it interesting that, he's saying that being in a family, he's saying, remember that no one belongs to you and you belong to no one. Now don't go home and tell your spouse this, because they'll come after me after the satsang with a stick. But really, I mean, if you introspect about it a little bit, and I'm not saying run away from your responsibilities, go into seclusion for a year, but really think about it. If you think about it a little impersonally, you know, we fulfill these roles. We are husbands, we are wives, we are children, or we are fathers and mothers. But just in a few years, you know, maybe a few decades, maybe less, maybe a little more, our husbands and our wives and our children and our parents, you know, if we believe in reincarnation, really they're going to be somebody else's children and wives and husbands and brothers, isn't it? And we have no say in the matter. So that's not a something to be sad about or feel gloomy about. Oh no, you know. But really, there is a deeper purpose there, which is to, like Lahiri Maharshi was saying, realize, yes, do your duty, see everyone as an expression of God, give them love, serve them, but always remember, ultimately you stand alone before God. You know, and we have to individually, you know, make that connection with God every day. And it is to God, you know, at the end of life, when death comes, He's going to be asking us, you know, everyone would have been gone, either before us or, you know, after us, but we stand face to face with God. And that is why it's so important now to make that connection, to take the time every day. I want to finally leave you with one practical suggestion. This I have tried in my own life. And you know, the title of our satsang today is also the inner pilgrimage. And in the reading, you know, we were reading, is it important to go outwardly to shrines and to places? And of course it is important. But you know, pilgrimage can be inner and outer, we know that. But it can also be done every day. So I suggest we all do a pilgrimage every morning and evening. And this is a practice I started some time back, and I have continued it for a while. And this will help you preserve your peace. And this is going to help you build these times of silence and really tune into what the great masters are saying. And very simply, you know, in the evening, after you're done with work, I would say a few hours before you go to bed, just tell yourself, I'm going on a pilgrimage. And choose a time, you know, fix a time. Let's say it's 6 p.m. in the evening. So say, okay, I'm going on a pilgrimage now. And what you do on a pilgrimage, you usually take a bag, you know, you fill it with stuff that you're going to carry along with you on your journey. But in this case, you're not going to put things that you're going to take, but you're going to put things in it that you're going to not take with you on this pilgrimage. And I would suggest putting some very fun things in that bag. Can anyone guess what that is? My goodness! Dhruv is the winner. He's gone on this pilgrimage many times. And really, I would suggest make it a ritual, sit with that bag and put your smartphones into it. You know, put your laptops, put your gadgets, put everything that is not going to help you on this, you know, in this time when you're now trying to withdraw. The mood of the day is to withdraw, you know, and you want to go into your inner self, and put it there. And I would say then walk a little distance in your house and find a little space, a cupboard, and just put that bag in there and forget about it for the rest of the evening. And tell yourself, this time is sacred now. This is my time between me and God. And go into your practice. And you don't have to meditate 3 hours if you cannot do that. But read something inspiring. Listen to something which is beautiful. Play a musical instrument, a harmonium, whatever it might be. But take that pilgrimage every evening. We don't have to go off to the Himalayas to do these things. And then again in the morning, do the same thing. You know, for the first few hours in the morning, do the same. And then, you know, walk back again to that cupboard, take that bag out and say, the pilgrimage is over for some time. And let me now, you know, whatever it is, you know, use those things to get around, get by during the day. But really, I have been practicing this for some time, several weeks. And I just found, just a forgotten piece, that I think so many of us have just forgotten what it means to live without stimulation for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And suddenly it's like it's so restful that you want to then go into the stillness. You want to, have that communication with God and Gurus. So I would recommend that. I thought I'll just recommend that just as a, little suggestion that you can try. And maybe next time when you come, you can share how your pilgrimage is going. And Dhruv, I'm sure you'll have many things to share. So that's just some things that always remember. Seclusion is the price of greatness. We have to pay a price, but it's not, it's not an actual price. It's something when you give it up willingly, you get more in return, and the ego struggles, but, we gain. It's a gainful bargain in the end for all of us. So joy to you.